You've seen it in movies. A tall wooden frame, a sharply angled blade, and a crowd holding its breath. Then, thunk, the blade drops. One head rolls. The crowd erupts. But the guillotine wasn't just a spectacle of death. In the 1800s, it was seen as the future of justice. Or so people thought. Today we will learn the shocking but fascinating history of the guillotine, how it was created, how it was employed, and why it persisted for over 200 years as a symbol of rationality as well as horror. You may be shocked to know that the guillotine was first built not because of cruelty, but because of mercy. In 18th century France, Enlightenment philosophers were flip-flopping the law and punishment on its head. Philosophers understood justice to be efficient, fair, and, most critically, even-handed. Physician and National Assemblyman Dr. Ignace Joseph Guillotine proposed a standardized, civilized method of capital punishment. Nobles were beheaded with the sword. Peasants hanged, burned, or broken on the wheel. Guillotine's argument: why must one's social standing determine the level of pain one experiences at death? Though he didn't develop the machine, it came to bear his name. It was Dr. Antoine Louis who helped design it, and a German harpsichord maker, Tobias Schmidt, who constructed the initial model. Its promise: painless, quick death, with mechanical efficiency. And the revolution arrived. What had started as an act of compassion became the cold instrument of large-scale killing. From 1793 to 1794, during the Reign of Terror, thousands were taken to the guillotine in Paris. The Place de la Révolution was a field of slaughter. Nobles and priests, revolutionaries, even radicals, fell to the guillotine. Most infamous was the beheading of Marie Antoinette. She was pulled along in a wooden tumbrel, jeered at by crowds, before being beheaded in front of an ocean of faces. It was a ritual. There were daily crowds that came to see. Food stalls were sold to the mobs. Artists sketched. Women knitted in front of the scaffold, les tricoteuses, counting heads casually as if with stitches. Something that had been a tool of equality became an ominous reminder of the efficiency of state killing. No sooner was the revolution over than the guillotine was not forgotten. Rather, it was bureaucratized. Between the Napoleonic Empire and the restored monarchy in the 19th century, the guillotine was the official French tool of capital punishment. It is set up in public town squares in the cities and occasionally accompanied by wagons to the countryside, as if it were a traveling spectacle. Country dwellers would travel to witness its ghastly ballet. Executioners were famous. In Paris, the sixth-generation executioner family, the Sansons, maintained disciplined books of their trade. They even had apprentices. Their line of work was feared, but oddly respected. Justice was no longer abstract. It had form, it had sound, it had deadlines, and a blade that never missed. What was it to face the guillotine? The prisoners were brought to the scaffold, typically in the morning. Their wrists were tied. The crowd observed each step. The prisoner was strapped onto an inclined wood board, which lowered them into place. Their neck was clamped in a bent wood vise. Above the knife, a 40-kilogram hunk of steel, set at an angle to slice, rested, supported by a wooden catch. On a signal from the executioner, the catch released. Decapitation took 0.13 seconds to carry out on a human being. Was death instantaneous, however? That was the question that troubled people then, and continues to trouble them now. Others described heads blinking, their lips talking, even their faces shifting shape or even smiling. One physician in 1905 performed experiments. He screamed out names at cut-off heads, claiming they attempted to respond. Today, science informs us that unconsciousness only requires seconds. But during the 1800s, most people believed the soul hung around, though temporarily. Consider the reaction to skepticism. It came in time to become something more than a killing machine, a cultural icon. It dominated literature, dominated art, dominated pamphlets, and even children's playthings. It haunted the pages of Victor Hugo and would later captivate Foucault. Revolutionaries cheered it as the people's blade. Monarchists viewed it as the tool of anarchy. Philosophers debated whether it robbed death of dignity or laid bare the brutality of the state. The condemned would sometimes go along with death. Some gave great last speeches. Some died quietly. And then, in the final moment, there was always some strange show, a struggle to remain calm, to charm the crowd, to die with elegance. Even in terror there was theater. And then, with the end of the 19th century, things altered. Public executions were out of vogue, but in France, the guillotine stayed, in prisons, beyond stone walls. But even in private, it left a long shadow. The final public guillotining was legalized in 1939 and photographed, and is one of the most ghastly pieces of cinema ever produced. In the 1960s and 70s, the debate ran through France as to whether or not capital punishment had any place in a civilized society. France formally abandoned the death penalty in 1981. The guillotine was formally retired. Its final victim was Hamida Jandoubi in 1977, 46 years ago. He was the last Westerner to be legally beheaded. The guillotine began as a symbol of reason, but turned out to be a symbol of horror. It had begun with equality, but ended with death in cold, calculated precision. It is not difficult to recall that this machine, so mechanistic, so precise, once bore the weight of justice upon its shoulders. It had a haunting question. Is killing humane? The sword itself now rests in museums, but its shadow, that still sticks. If this story made you shudder, or made you pause for justice, like we did, subscribe for more shuddery stories from our history, and ask yourselves, what would you have remembered in your final moment? Thanks for watching.